Captain Samuel Wright stood tall on the bridge of the USS Valiant, his eyes fixed on the vast emptiness of space displayed on the main view screen. The ship hummed with quiet efficiency around him, the product of humanity's best engineering minds. After surviving numerous global disasters and wars, humans had finally united and ventured into the stars. The Valiant represented their crowning achievement, the most advanced warship ever built. "Status report," Captain Wright said, his voice calm but commanding. Commander Lisa Moore looked up from her console. "All systems functioning at optimal levels, Captain. We're approaching the edge of charted space." "Very good, Commander." The Captain nodded, feeling pride in his crew and vessel. This was the Valiant's maiden voyage, a show of strength and a mission of exploration rolled into one. The ship carried 320 crew members, each selected from the best Earth had to offer. Lieutenant Gregory Martinez, the chief security officer, suddenly straightened at his station. "Captain, sensors are picking up something unusual at bearing 047 Mark 198. Dr. Olivia Carter, the ship's chief science officer, immediately redirected her scanners. Her fingers moved quickly across the touch-sensitive display. "Confirmed. There's an object approximately 500,000 kilometers away. It's not matching any known configuration in our database." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. After decades of space exploration, humanity had yet to encounter another intelligent species. Until possibly now. "Put it on screen maximum magnification," ordered Captain Wright. The view screen flickered and a distant object appeared. It was unlike any vessel humans had designed. The alien ship had an organic quality to its structure, with curves and protrusions that seemed to follow no logical pattern. It glowed with a faint bluish light. "Are they moving?" the captain asked. "No, sir," replied Lieutenant Martinez. "They're holding position." Commander Moore moved to stand beside the captain. "First contact," she whispered, just loud enough for Wright to hear. He nodded slightly. "Let's do this by the book. Open hailing frequencies on all standard bands. Add the first contact package we prepared." Communications Officer Ryan Cooper worked his console. "Transmitting now, sir. Standard greeting in multiple formats, mathematical sequences, and basic chemical formulas." Minutes passed with no response. The bridge crew remained focused on their stations, the tension growing with each passing second. "Still no answer, sir," Cooper reported. Captain Wright stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Keep transmitting. Dr. Carter, what can you tell me about that ship?" The science officer frowned at her readings. "Very little, I'm afraid. Our sensors are having trouble penetrating their hull. It appears to be approximately twice our size. Energy readings are unusual, not consistent with our propulsion technology." "Sir," Lieutenant Martinez's voice rose with alarm. "They're scanning us." "Nature of the scan?" the captain asked calmly. "Unknown type of radiation. It's passing through our shields like they're not even there." Martinez tapped urgently at his console. "It's penetrating all decks, all sections," Dr. Carter confirmed. "The scan is incredibly sophisticated. It's mapping our entire ship down to the molecular level. I've never seen anything like it." Captain Wright considered their situation carefully. First contact was always dangerous. The alien vessel had made no aggressive moves yet, but their powerful scanning technology demonstrated a clear technological advantage. "Raise shields to maximum. Power up defensive systems, but do not target weapons. I want to show caution, not aggression," Wright ordered. Throughout the Valiant, crew members moved with practiced efficiency. In engineering, Chief Engineer Allen Brown directed his team to reinforce shield harmonics. In medical, Dr. Pamela Nelson prepared her staff for any contingency. Everyone on board had trained for this moment, though few had truly believed they would be the ones to make first contact. On the alien vessel, the Kelvari observer team was processing the flood of information coming from their scans of the human ship. High Observer Zixtral, the mission commander, studied the preliminary reports with growing concern. "What manner of vessel is this?" he asked, his multifaceted eyes shifting color with his emotional state. "Bioanalyzer," Vern Cal gestured. with 3 of his upper limbs toward the data displays. Most unusual, High Observer. The ship is constructed with multiple redundant systems. Even if we disabled their primary power, they have at least 3 backup systems. Their weapons? Asked military strategist Murdoch. Primitive by our standards, but... Vern Cal hesitated. They appear designed for maximum damage rather than precision. And there are so many of them. High Observer Zixtral moved closer to the viewing portal, studying the human vessel. And what of the biological entities aboard? This question caused Vern Cal's skin to flush a deep purple, the Kelvari equivalent of alarm. They are concerning, High Observer. These humans evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme climate variations and high levels of background radiation. Their physical endurance exceeds our own by several factors. The information displays showed human cellular structure, skeletal systems reinforced against impacts, and muscle tissue capable of remarkable adaptation under stress. Other displays showed the ship's construction, built not just for efficiency, but for survivability under extreme conditions. Their vessel contains areas specifically designed for physical combat training, Murdoch noted with disbelief. They deliberately practice warfare. Increase scanning intensity, ordered Zixtral. I want to know everything about these creatures. Back. On the Valiant, the crew noticed the change immediately. Captain, the scanning beam has intensified, reported Martinez. It's beginning to interfere with some of our systems. Dr. Carter looked up from her station with concern. Sir, they seem particularly interested in our weapon systems and life support. Captain Wright remained outwardly calm despite his growing concern. Ms. Cooper, continue broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Yes, sir. Still no response to our hails. Commander Moore leaned closer to the captain. Sir, should we consider withdrawing? We're at a technological disadvantage here. Wright shook his head slightly. Not yet, Commander. This is too important. Humanity has waited too long for this moment. The lights on the bridge flickered momentarily as the alien scan probed deeper into the ship's systems. Engineer Brown reports the scan is causing minor power fluctuations throughout the ship. Commander Moore informed the captain after receiving a message from engineering. Have him compensate. Dr. Carter, are you getting any useful information from the scan? Can we learn about them while they're learning about us? The science officer nodded. Their scanning technology is revealing some aspects of their own ship. They appear to have an atmosphere rich in chlorine, likely toxic to humans. Their technology seems to be based on crystalline structures rather than our silicon-based computer systems. Lieutenant Martinez suddenly called out, Captain, they're launching something. On the view screen, a small object detached from the alien vessel and rapidly moved toward the Valiant. Evasive maneuvers, ordered Captain Wright. Too fast, Martinez warned. The object stopped short of the Valiant and began emitting a complex series of light pulses. Dr. Carter stared at her readings in wonder. I think they're trying to communicate. As humanity's first formal encounter with alien life unfolded, neither species truly understood how profoundly they were misreading each other. The Kelvari saw weapons where humans had built protection. They saw aggression where humans had created resilience. And with each scan, the aliens grew more concerned about what they had discovered. First contact had begun, and the universe would never be the same. High Observer Zixtral moved uneasily around the curved command center of the Kelvari scout vessel. The viewing screens displayed countless data streams about the human ship. For 3,000 cycles, the Kelvari had explored this sector of space. They had encountered 46 different species. None had caused such immediate concern as these humans. Explain these readings again, Zixtral demanded of bioanalyzer Vern Cal. Vern Cal's skin rippled with nervous colors as he gestured toward the biological scans. The humans evolved on a planet we would classify as a death world, High Observer. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, significant radiation, and thousands of predator species. Their bodies show adaptations to all these challenges. That explains their physical structure, said military strategist Murdoch. But what of their technology? It seems both advanced and primitive simultaneously. Yes, agreed Verncal. They have mastered faster-than-light travel, yet their weapons use simple kinetic principles. They split atoms for power when most advanced races have moved beyond such dangerous methods. Murdoch moved his upper limbs in a gesture of deep concern. Look at their ship design. Every critical system has multiple backups. Their life support can function at 30% capacity and still sustain their crew. Their weapon systems can operate independently of their main computer. Zixtral studied the scan results carefully. It is as if they expect their ships to be severely damaged and still continue fighting. What kind of species designs for such scenarios? One that has known much conflict, answered Murdoch grimly. I have accessed their historical records. These humans have fought countless wars among themselves. Their technology evolved primarily through military need. Are they sending any further communications? Asked Zixtral. A communications specialist responded. Yes, High Observer. Simple mathematical sequences and chemical formulas, basic first contact protocols. Should we respond? Not yet, ordered Zixtral. Continue gathering data. I want a complete assessment before we engage. Back on the USS Valiant, Captain Wright and his crew monitored the alien vessel with growing concern. The light-emitting object remained positioned between the two ships, pulsing occasionally. Any progress decoding those light patterns, Dr. Carter? Asked the captain. The science officer nodded slowly. I believe they're using the pulses to calibrate our responses, testing our visual range and processing speed. It's like they're testing our perception. Commander Moore frowned. That doesn't sound like communication, it sounds like assessment. Precisely, agreed Dr. Carter. I think they're studying us, not talking to us. Captain Wright considered this information carefully. Lieutenant Martinez, what's the status of their scans? They've intensified, sir. They're focusing particularly on our weapons arrays and engine core now. That's not encouraging, Wright muttered. Keep shields at maximum. Mr. Cooper, continue broadcasting our first contact package. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Alan Brown monitored the ship's systems with growing frustration. The alien scans were causing subtle interference in the power distribution network. Nothing dangerous yet, but concerning. Reroute auxiliary power through the secondary grid, he instructed his team. Let's see if that reduces the fluctuations. Engineer Samantha Nelson looked up from her station. Sir, the scans are penetrating areas we considered secure. They're mapping our entire power system. Brown nodded grimly. I know. Make sure backup systems are ready in case they try something less friendly than scanning. On the Kelvari vessel, the assessment team had made a disturbing discovery. The data analysts had accessed the human ship's historical and educational databases. High Observer, we have found evidence that these humans intentionally expose themselves to simulated danger, reported Verncal, his skin now a deep purple with alarm. Explain, demanded Zixtral. Verncal displayed images from the ship's recreational facilities. They have areas dedicated to subjecting their bodies to controlled physical stress. They lift heavy objects repeatedly to strengthen their muscles. They run on machines that go nowhere. They even fight each other in ritualized combat for training. This is beyond concerning, Murdoch interjected. Their security personnel engage in simulations where they practice killing and combat. Their entire crew regularly practices for disaster scenarios. Zixtral's eyes shifted to a pale yellow, the color of deep thought. So they intentionally prepare for pain, suffering, and conflict? This is not the behavior of a rational species. There's more, continued Verncal. Their biological structure shows remarkable adaptability. When their bodies are stressed or damaged, they often grow back stronger. Their historical records show they have survived multiple near-extinction events. And look at this design, added Murdoch, highlighting sections of the human ship. Their vessel includes deliberate compartmentalization. If one section is breached, it can be sealed off to protect the rest. They design assuming parts of their ship will be destroyed. Another analyst spoke up. High Observer, we have detected weapons throughout the ship. Nearly every human carries a small cutting tool on their person at all times, and many spaces contain secured weapons caches. Zixtral moved back to the viewing portal, studying the human vessel with new understanding. The Kelvari had evolved, in a world of stability and cooperation. Their few conflicts had been brief and limited. These humans had evolved through constant challenge and conflict. They were fundamentally different in ways that made them unpredictable and dangerous. Increase scanning power, ordered Zixtral. Focus on their command center and their historical databases. I want to understand their decision-making processes. On the Valiant, the intensified scan immediately triggered alarms. Captain, they've increased scanning power by 300%, reported Lieutenant Martinez. It's beginning to affect our systems. As if to emphasize his point, the lights flickered and several consoles momentarily went dark before switching to backup power. That was main power grid 2, Commander Moore reported. Automatic systems rerouted to grid 3. Captain Wright's expression hardened. This is no longer just curiosity. They're testing our vulnerabilities. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands to alert status. This is not a drill. Prepare for possible hostile action. Throughout the ship, crew members moved with calm efficiency to their assigned stations. In the weapons control room, officers prepared defensive systems while carefully avoiding any actions that might appear aggressive. In medical, staff prepared for potential casualties. Dr. Carter studied her readings with growing concern. Captain, the energy output from their scanning beam has reached potentially damaging levels. I believe they're testing how much we can withstand. Captain Wright stood from his chair. Mr. Cooper, open a direct channel, visual if they'll accept it. Attempting now, sir. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Samuel Wright of the United Earth ship Valiant. Your scans are reaching harmful levels. We request you reduce power immediately. We desire peaceful contact, but will take necessary steps to protect this vessel and crew. The response was immediate. The scanning beam intensified further, now, clearly damaging several external sensor arrays. They've penetrated our communications firewall, called Cooper. They're downloading our entire historical database. In the Kelvari Command Center, the information flooded in. Images of human wars, disasters, and conflicts. Documents detailing survival against overwhelming odds. Training protocols for every imaginable emergency. This cannot be permitted, Zixtral declared, his skin now the bright red of decided action. A species this resilient, this prepared for conflict, with this level of endurance poses an unacceptable risk. Send our findings to the hegemony. We must decide how to proceed with these humans. And as both ships hung in the darkness of space, the gap in understanding between them only grew wider. Captain Wright gripped the edge of his command chair as another power surge rippled through the Valiant. The alien scan had intensified beyond safe levels. The hull groaned under the stress of the unknown energy. Damage report, he ordered, his voice steady despite the danger. Lieutenant Martinez responded quickly. External sensor arrays 3 and 7 are offline. Minor damage to decks 4 and 6. No casualties reported. Commander Moore looked up from her console. Sir, if they increase power again, we may lose more critical systems. Wright nodded. I understand, Commander, but I want to avoid escalation if possible. He turned to Communications Officer Cooper. Any response to our message? Nothing direct, sir, but there's a significant increase in data traffic from their vessel. They appear to be sending large data packages somewhere. Dr. Carter had been analyzing the alien scan patterns with growing concern. Captain, these aren't random scans anymore. They're specifically targeting our weapon systems, shield generators, and life support. This feels like they're preparing for something. The bridge fell quiet as everyone processed this information. First contact scenarios had always assumed some period of careful communication before any significant interaction. These aliens seemed to be skipping straight to threat assessment. Chief Engineer Brown, what's your status? Wright called over. The ship's communication system. Brown's voice came back tight with tension. We're holding, Captain, but barely. The alien energy is causing havoc with our power distribution network. I've had to isolate critical systems. Do what you need to keep us functional, Mr. Brown. Aye, sir. But there's something else. The core. is experiencing unusual energy fluctuations from the scan. Nothing dangerous yet, but if it continues. Wright exchanged glances with Commander Moore. The fusion core was the heart of the ship. If it became unstable, they would have no choice but to eject it or risk destruction. Understood. Keep me informed of any changes. The captain turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Martinez, I want defense systems ready, but take no offensive posture. Make sure they can see we're not targeting them. Yes, sir. On the Kelvari vessel, the assessment team watched the human ship with growing alarm. Military strategist. Murdoch studied the data with all four eyes widened. High Observer, look at this response pattern. Despite our intrusive scan, they have not targeted weapons. They prioritized internal systems protection over offensive capability. Zixtral moved closer to the display. Is this restraint or strategy? Bioanalyzer Vern Cal interjected. Their communications continue to request peaceful contact, but their crew is moving to defensive positions throughout the ship. Their behavior is confusing. Show me their power core again, ordered Zixtral. The display shifted to show the Valiant's fusion reactor. Energy patterns swirled in complex patterns as the human engineers worked to stabilize it under the stress of the Kelvari scan. Their core design is primitive but ingenious, noted a Kelvari engineer. They use magnetic containment to harness the energy of atomic fusion, highly inefficient compared to our crystal matrices but capable of producing enormous power. Murdoch suddenly straightened in alarm. High Observer! Energy spike in their core! On the Valiant, alarms blared as Engineer Brown and his team rushed to contain the unexpected surge. The alien scan had triggered a feedback loop in the magnetic containment field. Containment at 87% and dropping, called Engineer Nelson. The scan is amplifying the field instability. Brown moved quickly between control stations. Reroute power through the tertiary buffers. We need to dampen that resonance effect. It's not working, Nelson reported. Containment at 75%. Bridge, this is engineering. Brown called out. We have a situation developing. The core is destabilizing due to scan interference. Captain Wright responded immediately. Can you contain it? Working on it, sir, but we might need to power down to safe levels. That would leave us vulnerable. Wright made his decision quickly. Do what you need to save the ship, Mr. Brown. On the Kelvari vessel, the monitoring team watched the energy fluctuations with growing concern. Their power core is becoming unstable, reported the engineering specialist. Energy readings are spiking. Murdoch's skin flashed warning colors. They could be preparing to attack. That energy surge could power weapons. Or their core could be failing under our scan, countered Vern Cal. We should reduce scan power. High Observer Zixtral hesitated, torn between caution and the need for complete assessment. Continue monitoring. Prepare defensive measures. Back on the Valiant, Engineer Brown had made a difficult choice. We need to vent plasma from the secondary chamber to reduce core pressure. It will create an energy discharge, but it should stabilize the system. Captain Wright considered the implications. Will it look like we're firing weapons? Possibly, sir. The energy will be directed away from the alien vessel, but it will be a significant discharge. Wright took a deep breath. Do it. But alert all stations to prepare for possible misunderstanding from our visitors. As Brown's team prepared for the plasma vent, Dr. Carter suddenly called out from her science station. Captain, I'm detecting energy buildup in the alien vessel. It appears they're charging some kind of weapon system. Lieutenant Martinez confirmed. Targeting scanners have locked onto us, sir. Red alert. All hands brace for impact, Wright ordered. Hold weapons, I repeat. Do not return fire unless directly ordered. In engineering, the situation had reached critical levels. Venting plasma now, Brown announced. A massive burst of bluish energy erupted from the Valiant's lower section, shooting away from both ships into empty space. On the Kelvari vessel, alarms sounded as their sensors detected the energy discharge. They've fired, shouted Murdoch. Energy weapon detected. It's not directed at us, observed the sensor specialist. The energy is dissipating into space. But Zixtral had already made his decision. Launch defensive pulse. Minimum power. Target their weapon systems only. A brilliant beam of greenish light erupted from the Kelvari ship, striking the Valiant's forward section. The human ship shuddered violently under the impact. On the bridge, officers were thrown from their stations. Emergency lighting flickered on as several systems went offline. Damage report, Wright called out, pulling himself back into his chair. Commander Moore checked her displays. Forward shield generators offline. Weapons control on decks 3 and 4 damaged. Minor hull breach. In Section 14, emergency containment holding. Sickbay reports 12 injuries, none life-threatening. Wright's expression hardened. They misinterpreted our plasma vent as an attack. Dr. Carter looked up from her station. Sir, I think I understand their light signals now. The pattern suggests a base 8 mathematical system. We might be able to establish basic communication. Do it, Wright ordered. Tell them we mean no harm, that the energy discharge was a safety measure, not a weapon. As Dr. Carter worked with Communications Officer Cooper to craft a message, Captain Wright addressed the crew. All stations maintain defensive posture but take no aggressive action. I repeat, no aggressive action regardless of provocation. This is first contact, people. Let's make sure it's not last contact. On the Kelvari ship, confusion reigned as they observed the human response. They're not returning fire, reported Murdoch with disbelief. Their weapon systems are coming back online, but they're not targeting us. New communication attempt detected, announced the communication specialist. They're matching our mathematical base system. Zixtral moved closer to the display. What are they saying? Simple concepts. Energy release. Safety measure. Not attack. They're claiming the discharge was an emergency procedure. Can this be verified? Asked Zixtral. The engineering specialist consulted his readings. Their core has stabilized following the discharge. It's possible they were venting excess energy to prevent overload. And we attacked them for it, Vern Cal said quietly. Yet they still do not fire upon us. The Kelvari command center grew silent as they considered the implications. These humans, with their redundant systems, their physical resilience, their history of warfare, had just shown unexpected restraint. Perhaps most terrifying of all was the realization that they might possess something the Kelvari had never needed to develop: the ability to forgive. Medical Officer Daniel Johnson worked quickly in the sickbay of the USS Valiant. The alien attack had sent 12 crew members to his medical team with injuries ranging from minor burns to broken bones. Despite the chaos, Johnson maintained a focused calm as he moved from patient to patient. Apply the regenerator to that laceration, he instructed a nurse treating a young engineer with a deep cut on his arm. Powell, get that bone knitter ready for Ensign Garcia. Commander Moore entered the medical bay, surveying the scene with concern. Doctor, what's your status? Johnson barely looked up as he sealed a wound on a security officer's forehead. Managing, Commander. No life-threatening injuries. We should have everyone patched up within the hour. Moore nodded, impressed as always by the medical team's efficiency. The captain wants an update for his report. Tell him we're doing our job, Johnson replied, moving to his next patient. Just like everyone else on this ship. On the bridge, Captain Wright was receiving damage. Reports from throughout the vessel. The alien weapon had caused significant but not crippling damage. The Valiant had been built to withstand far worse. Engineering reports shield generators can be back online in 20 minutes, Lieutenant Martinez reported. Weapon control for forward arrays is still offline. Dr. Carter and Communications Officer Cooper were working intensely at the communication station. Captain, I think we've established basic translation parameters, Carter said. We're receiving a direct communication request from the alien vessel. Wright straightened his uniform. Put it through. Visual if possible. The main view screen flickered, and then displayed the command center of the Kelvari ship. The humans got their first clear look at the aliens. Tall, slender beings with multifaceted eyes and skin that seemed to shift colors. The alien in the center, presumably the commander, had skin that glowed with a soft blue light. This is Captain Samuel Wright of the USS Valiant, Wright said clearly. We receive your transmission. The alien spoke, its words translated by the computer with a slight delay. I am High Observer Zixtral of the Kelvari Exploratory Fleet. We regret the misunderstanding that led to damage to your vessel. Wright noticed the alien didn't quite apologize. The misunderstanding was mutual. High Observer. We were venting plasma to stabilize our core, not attacking. Yes. We have determined this was likely the case, Zixtral responded. Your restraint in not retaliating was unexpected. On the Kelvari vessel, the assessment team continued their analysis of the human ship and its response to the attack. Bioanalyzer Vern Cal was particularly focused on the medical bay, where the ship's sensors showed intense activity. High Observer. Observe their medical response, Vern Cal said, highlighting the area on their display. They are treating their injured with remarkable efficiency. Murdoch joined him at the display. Their medical technology is surprisingly advanced compared to their weapon systems. They place high value on healing. Zixtral considered this information as he maintained the communication with the human captain. Captain Wright, we notice your damaged systems are being rapidly repaired. Your species shows impressive resilience. On the Valiant, Wright exchanged glances with Commander Moore. The aliens were still scanning them, even during this conversation. Then the Valiant was designed to withstand damage and continue functioning, High Observer, just as our bodies are designed to heal from injury. Dr. Carter quietly spoke to the captain. Sir, they seem fascinated by our medical capabilities. Perhaps we could offer to share some basic medical knowledge as a goodwill gesture. Wright nodded slightly. High Observer Zixtral, we notice you continue to study our vessel. Perhaps we could exchange information more directly. We would be willing to share some of our medical knowledge. The offer clearly surprised the Kelvari leader. Its skin briefly flashed yellow before returning to blue. You would share your technology with a species that has damaged your ship? Medical knowledge is not something we withhold, even from those we may have disagreements with, Wright replied. Healing is a universal need. On the Kelvari ship, this statement caused considerable discussion among the assessment team. The weird concept seemed foreign to them. Their willingness to share valuable information after hostilities is illogical, Mordek stated. It could be a deception. Or it could be a value system very different from our own, Vern Cal countered. Look at their historical records. Even during their most brutal wars, they often respected medical personnel and facilities. High Observer. Zixtral was reviewing the complete assessment of humanity that his team had assembled. The more they learned, the more complex and contradictory humans appeared to be. They exhibit both extreme aggression and extreme compassion, noted the psychological analyst. Their history shows countless wars, yet also remarkable cooperation in times of crisis. They build weapons of tremendous destructive power, yet develop sophisticated medical technology to heal and preserve life. Murdoch added, their military protocols emphasize both offensive capability and restraint. Their training simulations include scenarios where they choose not to attack when provoked. Vern Cal's skin rippled with colors that indicated deep concern. Most troubling is their adaptability. Their bodies grow stronger when damaged. Their societies become more unified when threatened. Their technology advances most rapidly during conflicts. Zixtral turned back to the communication screen. Captain, Wright, we have studied your species extensively through our scans. You are unlike any we have encountered before. On the Valiant, Wright smiled slightly. We would say the same about the Kelvari, High Observer. That's why communication is so important. Indeed, replied Zixtral. We have one question that our analysis cannot answer satisfactorily. Your ship contains significant offensive capabilities, yet you chose not to use them even after being attacked. Why? The bridge crew of the Valiant exchanged glances. The question revealed much about Kelvari psychology. Because this is first contact, High Observer, Wright answered simply. In our history, we have learned the hard way that misunderstandings are easy, while trust is difficult to rebuild once broken. We preferred to risk damage to our ship rather than risk unnecessary conflict with a new species. This answer sent ripples of color cascading across Zixtral's skin. The concept seemed to deeply affect the alien commander. This philosophy is fascinating, Zixtral finally replied. And concerning. A species willing to absorb damage while withholding its full capabilities is unpredictable in ways our strategic models cannot account for. In the Kelvari Command Center, Mordek updated his threat assessment. A species that chooses when to use its power rather than responding automatically is potentially more dangerous, not less. Or potentially a more valuable ally, countered Vern Cal. On the Valiant, repairs continued throughout the ship as the conversation with the Kelvari progressed. Engineer Brown had the shield generators back online ahead of schedule. Medical Officer Johnson had treated all injured crew members. The ship was returning to full operational status with impressive speed. Dr. Carter continued to refine the translation program, allowing for more nuanced communication. Captain, I think they're more afraid of us now than they were before. Not because of our weapons, but because of our restraint. Wright nodded thoughtfully. Fear often comes from what we don't understand, and it seems the Kelvari don't understand why anyone would choose not to use power they possess. That makes us unpredictable to them, Commander Moore added, and unpredictability can be more frightening than direct hostility. As the two ships maintained their position in space, the gulf of understanding between them remained vast. The Kelvari had come seeking to assess a potential threat or resource. Instead, they had found something far more complex. A species whose greatest strength might not be their technology or biology, but their capacity for choice. Diplomatic Officer Frank Miller joined Captain Wright on the bridge of the USS Valiant. As the ship's specialist in first contact scenarios, Miller had been preparing for this moment since the alien vessel was first detected. He studied the Kelvari on the view screen with professional interest. Captain, I recommend we offer a cultural exchange package, Miller suggested quietly. Something beyond technical data that might help them understand us better. Wright nodded. Dr. Carter, have we improved our translation capabilities enough for that kind of nuanced communication? I believe so, Captain, Carter replied. The more we communicate, the better the translation matrix becomes. We're now capturing approximately 85% of their linguistic subtleties. Proceed, Officer Miller, Wright ordered. Miller stepped forward. High Observer Zixtral, I am Diplomatic Officer Frank Miller. With your permission, we would like to share information about human culture and society, and would welcome similar information about the Kelvari. On the Kelvari vessel, Zixtral consulted briefly with his advisors before responding. We will accept this exchange, Officer Miller. However, we must first report our full assessment of your species to the Kelvari hegemony. Your species presents unique considerations. The Kelvari communication officer worked quickly to compile their findings into a secure transmission to their home government. The report was comprehensive and alarming. It detailed human biological resilience, technological adaptability, social complexity, and most concerning of all, their unpredictable decision-making processes. Military strategist Murdek included his own assessment. The humans represent a potential threat unlike any previously encountered in this sector. While technologically less advanced than the hegemony in many areas, their adaptability and resilience make them dangerous. Most concerning is their demonstrated ability to withhold force even when attacked, suggesting strategic thinking that our models cannot reliably predict. Bioanalyzer Vern Cal added his perspective. Human biology shows adaptation to conditions that would be lethal to most sentient species. Their cellular structure can repair significant damage. They intentionally stress their bodies to increase strength. Their medical technology focuses on accelerating natural healing processes rather than preventing injury entirely. This suggests a species that expects and prepares for hardship rather than avoiding it. As the report was transmitted, High Observer Zixtral returned his attention to the communication with the humans. We are prepared to proceed with cultural exchange. What would you like to share first? On the Valiant, Miller had prepared carefully for this moment. We would like to share examples of human art, music, and literature that demonstrate our values and history. We believe understanding begins with sharing how we express ourselves. The cultural package was transmitted. Earth's greatest music from classical symphonies to jazz, art from cave paintings to modern digital creations, literature from ancient epics to contemporary novels. Each piece was selected to show the full range of human experience, triumph and tragedy, war and peace, hate and love. In return, the Kelvari shared their own cultural artifacts. The humans were fascinated by the Kelvari's mathematical music, crystalline art structures, and highly structured narrative traditions. The aliens seemed to value order, symmetry, and logical progression in all their creative expressions. As the exchange continued, Medical Officer Johnson arrived on the bridge. "Captain, all injured crew members have been treated and released to quarters. No lasting damage." "Thank you, Doctor," Wright replied. "Would you be willing to discuss our medical procedures with the Kelvari? They seem particularly interested in our healing capabilities." Johnson nodded. "Of course, Captain." The doctor stepped forward and began explaining basic human medical principles to the fascinated aliens. "Our approach focuses on supporting the body's natural healing processes," he explained. "Humans evolved with remarkable regenerative capabilities. Our medical technology largely accelerates these natural processes." On the Kelvari vessel, this information prompted intense discussion among the science team. The concept of working with natural biological processes rather than replacing them entirely was foreign to their medical philosophy. "Their entire approach to medicine reflects their overall nature," Verncal observed. "They do not avoid damage. They learn to repair it. They do not prevent pain. They endure it and grow stronger from it." While this exchange continued, the Kelvari received a response from the hegemony regarding their report on humanity. The message was clear and direct. Maintain peaceful contact, establish diplomatic relations if possible, avoid any actions that could provoke conflict. These humans must be approached with extreme caution. High Observer Zixtral shared this directive with his senior staff. The hegemony recognizes the unique nature of this species. We are to proceed with formal diplomatic contact. Mordek seemed relieved. A wise decision. Conflict with humans would be unpredictable. Zixtral returned to the communication with the Valiant. "Captain Wright, we have received instructions from our government. The Kelvari hegemony wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity." On the Valiant, this announcement was met with cautious optimism. Captain Wright glanced at Diplomatic Officer Miller, who nodded encouragingly. "We welcome this proposal, High Observer," Wright responded. "We will need to contact Earth for official authorization, but I am confident our government will agree." "Before we proceed further," Zixtral said, his skin shifting to a deep purple hue, "I must ask, why do you build warships if your primary goal is peaceful contact?" The question hung in the air for a moment. The bridge crew exchanged glances, aware that this was a crucial moment in the developing relationship. Captain Wright answered honestly. "The universe is vast and unknown, High Observer. We hope for peace but prepare for challenges. The Valiant can fight if necessary, but it was built primarily to survive, to ensure that whatever we encounter out here, humanity will learn from it and return home with that knowledge." Zixtral's skin rippled with colors as he processed this response. "A pragmatic approach, yet you showed restraint when attacked. Because wisdom is knowing when not to use the power you have," Wright replied simply. This concept seemed to deeply affect the Kelvari commander. After a moment, he responded, "Captain Wright, I must tell you truthfully. When we first scanned your vessel, what we observed terrified us. Your species has evolved through conflict in ways that make you fundamentally different from the Kelvari. You are built to endure pain, to survive damage, to thrive in adversity." Wright smiled slightly. "And yet here we are, talking instead of fighting. Perhaps that is the most important thing your scans revealed about us. That despite our capacity for violence, we prefer understanding." As the two ships prepared to formalize their contact and establish regular communication channels, The Kelvari assessment team completed their final report on humanity. The conclusion, written by High Observer Zixtral himself, would be studied by Kelvari scientists and strategists for generations to come. Humanity represents a new category of sentient species. Evolved on a planet that demanded constant adaptation, they have developed both remarkable physical resilience and extraordinary mental flexibility. Their technology reflects their nature, built to endure failure rather than avoid it. Their social structures balance individual freedom with collective action in ways our models struggle to predict. They are capable of both savage violence and profound compassion, often within the same individual. Most concerning is not their weapons or their technology, but their fundamental nature. Humans do not avoid hardship. They grow stronger from it. They do not fear pain. They learn from it. They do not flee from danger. They prepare for it. In our long history of space exploration, we have never encountered a species for whom adversity is not something to be avoided, but something to be overcome. This makes them unlike any species in known space. The Kelvari hegemony would be wise to cultivate humans as allies, for they would be formidable opponents, not because of their current technology, but because of what they will inevitably become. And as the two ships maintained position in the vastness of space, neither fully understanding the other but both committed to trying, the future of interspecies relations hung in delicate balance.